I'm the kind of guy who would never cheat on the one he loves.
Well, that's great. But could you explain this to me? I show him a couple of photographs, and after a few seconds of silence, a wedding. Such an event commemorates a couple's true love for each other, and that initiates the binding of two individual hearts into one. On that special day, the bride cocooned herself in a majestic white wedding gown, and, beside the man whom she loves so much and wishes to spend the rest of her life together, she offers her thanks in response to their congratulations. Perhaps any woman would aspire to experience such a glorious moment in her life, for all her family and friends to celebrate her happiness together with her. Unfortunately, my own wedding wasn't exactly one to celebrate my happiness. It was supposed to be so, but unforeseen circumstances transformed it into a battleground, with I lusting for revenge. I am 28 years old. I work in a regional branch of a large conglomerate in the app software industry. In terms of looks, I'm nothing extraordinary, perhaps a little plain, and yes, I am aware of this myself. I live with my parents in our family home. Such is me, but I was to fall in love with a wonderful guy and become his fiancée. My husband was an officer of the elite who transferred to my branch from headquarters down in the big city. He had loads of charisma, and his leadership allowed him to be admired by all of his subordinates. Ever since we first met, he always came to talk to me in that very kind, gentlemanly fashion of his.
You're very focused, and you do your job very well.
Excuse me? I'm only doing what everyone is also doing, sir. But thank you, in any case.
I like that side of you, where you're really focused and conservative. I like that very much.
Wait, what? It was the very first time any man had ever told me something like that. In the beginning, I thought he was teasing me or something, to maybe alleviate the stress of being a company officer. But over the next few weeks, he remained very kind to me. Little by little, I became infatuated in him and his kind demeanor.
Are you feeling all right, like, physically? You work so hard every day, and I'm feeling a little concerned for you.
Oh, yes, I'm totally fine, sir. I only have confidence in my physical endurance, you see.
Do you have anyone you like in particular? Any guy, I mean. Oh, wait, I'm being inappropriate. I apologize. Forget I ever asked you that.
Not at all, sir. Well, I don't have anyone in particular that I like.
Would you be okay with me going out with you as your boyfriend? If you don't mind, of course. I understand if you don't think that's a good idea.
Of course. And that's how we started our wonderful relationship, which lasted 6 months until he proposed marriage to me. We decided that the wedding, per his request, would be held soon after he returned to headquarters.
I'm so sorry to make you wait for our special moment together because of some stupid things I have to do.
It's all right, honey. I know you're doing a crucial job for the company, and for now, that's more important than anything else.
The wedding may still be a ways off, but we are officially husband and wife now. I promise, my dear, with all my heart, that I'll make you as happy as can be. I'll treasure you with all my heart and soul.
We started living together. The news of our engagement spread across the company, and our marriage was, for better or for worse, dubbed the Blitzkrieg. It was a little unsettling to me that there were rumors that claimed we had to get married because I'd gotten pregnant.
I don't mind a shotgun wedding, honestly. Actually, it would make me so happy.
But what about your reputation? Your social standing as a company officer? It could all be tainted.
I stand corrected. Your focus really does border on schizophrenia. Sorry, honey. But I really do want children soon.
Wait, what? I think you're getting ahead of yourself, honey.
It's a great opportunity. How about we do some premarital checkups, just in case?
Per his suggestion, I got a checkup soon thereafter. I wasn't pregnant just yet, but it seemed like I was picture of healthiness. He was thrilled to hear I was healthy, and without any problems. We registered ourselves under the same surname and started living together. He was amazing at his job with the housework too. He was the complete opposite to the kind of guys you often see, those who abide by the phrase, "People never feed a landed fish," and worked hard at home too, for my sake. You're just too perfect, honey. I don't have much else to do around here.
I'm doing all this because I want to, you know? I want you to be happy.
Such was my wonderful married life with him. But there was just one thing, one tiny, tiny thing that made me lonely in spite of everything he ever did for me. And that was the fact that he had to go back to headquarters on the weekends and stayed overnight in the big city because of his work. That prevented us from spending time together on days off, but that was only going to last until he permanently transferred back to headquarters. Don't forget, we were going to have a wedding once he did go back. In due time, he transferred back to headquarters and became official. I was going to quit my job eventually in order to go along with him. The workplace was already well aware of this, and I was starting to pack away a few of my things, little by little. But my husband said,
"This branch will need you for another while, honey. Could you please think about leaving your job a little way down the road?"
His voice sounded so clear and sincere.
"I'm sorry to make you work a little longer, even though you wanted something different. I'll make it up to you by doing all the housework back at home."
What? You don't have to do that. You're gonna make me feel guilty.
"I want you to relax all you want in this house of ours. I do want to have children as soon as we can, so it's the least I can do to keep you strong and healthy."
He was always kind to me, angelic even, to be completely honest. But starting at around the time his service for the branch was coming to an end, I started to realize that something seemed strange. At first, I thought he was praising me for my work at that branch and legitimately wanted me to stay in the company for a little while longer. But the fact was that even though I'd asked him multiple times if I could go with him back to the big city on weekends, he always refused.
"I want to keep my working life and private life separate, you know?"
But I'd like to meet some of the people who work at headquarters. We're going to invite them to the wedding in any case, right?
"You're busy at work every single day during the week, and I want you to take the weekend off completely and relax well. Don't worry. I know how much you want to greet people in my workplace, so I'm going to do that for you."
Such was the conversation sometimes, and a nagging voice at the back of my head was pestering me about something wrong with him, and I later managed to figure out what it was. He was deliberately trying to put up some distance between me and his workplace society, for reasons yet unsaid. But why? Was there something about the company he didn't want me to know about? Did he think things would get awkward because he actually has an ex-girlfriend working there? Doubt started to brew within my head, and I resented myself for it, sometimes rendering me in a spout of depression. Everything changed one day. His phone that he'd left behind because he was taking a shower vibrated to life because of a phone call. The caller was seen to be headquarters. I thought he wouldn't want anything to do with his work while he was at home, and thus, I decided that hearing the matter for him was a good idea and reached for the phone.
hold on, stop, don't do that. It's all right. I'll answer it.
My husband suddenly burst out of the bathroom and stopped me from answering. I was surprised to see him completely naked and drenched, leaving traces of tiny water puddles on the wooden floor.
Hello? Yes? It's about that matter of business, is it? I see.
His voice was unnaturally loud for a phone call, and he returned to the bathroom as he continued with his phone call. As I watched his exposed buttocks scampering back into the gloom of the house, a woman's intuition confirmed there was a shadow of a woman over his life, and it wasn't mine. And then, the weekend came, and my husband left to head back to headquarters. I would see him again the next night.
Well then, I'm off, honey. I'll be back soon. As always.
Off you go, honey. Have a safe trip. Because headquarters was pretty far away from where we lived, he always took our car to get to the big city. After driving a long time, he would stop in a nearby town, stay the night in a hotel, and then arrive at work early the next morning. After seeing my husband off, I called a certain person. Hello? Yes, he just left the house. You might be wondering who I was calling. Well, it was a private detective. Yes, you heard right. I actually hired a private detective to confirm if my husband was cheating on me or not. By this point, my guilt for ever doubting my husband's loyalty was completely overshadowed by the desire to know, once and for all. It was a little expensive to hire a detective, but they reassured me by saying,
An affair on a business trip is relatively easy because we would acquire the information about the when and the where of the affair itself, so it wouldn't cost much, ma'am.
They didn't offer me a discount, but it was more reasonable than what I thought it would be. That night, a little after 10 o'clock, I got a call from the detective who was on the case. No worries, sir. Thank you for your hard work. And, what did you find? I asked for the truth, my voice trembling and my fingertips colder than Antarctica. The detective fell silent for a couple seconds thereafter. That was more than enough information. I collapsed onto the couch, sighed, and fought so hard against the impending tears.
I'm afraid your husband is very guilty, ma'am. Without any doubt. The place of the affair was his car. Almost immediately after arriving at his destination for the night, he met her. I also got the proof you need. A crystal clear photograph of them meeting and stuff like that.
Place of the affair. Inside his car. Huh. I wonder, are we really talking about my husband? Could it be possible that they made a mistake in the guy's identity? And who is this woman who's having the affair with him?
I'm not sure yet, but that's about to change. The woman just left the car and is now making her way towards a taxi. I'm gonna follow the vehicle.
The call ended, and I sat there, staring at the blank screen for some time thereafter. I realized that my wonderful married life was gone, finished, hopeless of ever being restored, after only a mere 6 months. The next morning, I received another call from the detective, this time, to inform me of the identity of this woman. Just as I thought, the woman worked in headquarters, just like him. To make matters worse, she was already married too. The relationship between the two of them had actually been rumored within their workplace in the past. And, because of this, my husband transferred to the regional branch where I worked. He later married me, and the suspicion of them ever having an affair was quickly annihilated, and he could finally return to headquarters. Did my own husband use me, to use marriage as a means of exploitation to be promoted to greatness, is an axiomality, scandalous thing to do. Not to mention the fact that she probably already knew of his being married to me. She works at headquarters after all. And everything about the company and its branches eventually finds a way to make it to the big cheese. Although, this was an affair in of itself, could anyone truly accept the reality that their lover is married to another? Even the detective agency said,
This is not a standard case of an affair, ma'am. We suggest you investigate the matter further.
Yes, that's what I want to do.
The photographic evidence we provided is more than enough to find your husband guilty of disloyalty and to divorce him.
Indeed, I understand. But I do wish to know what their hopes were exactly. I want to know what they intended to accomplish with this affair.
We understand, ma'am. In that case, we will launch our next operation tonight. We ask for your help and cooperation, ma'am, as we cannot do this without you.
I quickly started to prepare for the trip. The next morning, I made my way for the city where my company's headquarters were, where my husband works. I met the detective on the case in person soon after I arrived.
Here is a photograph of your husband that I personally took myself last night. Can you confirm that this is him?
Yes, I can confirm. Without a doubt, that is my husband. The photograph showed an explicit scene of a man and a woman engaged in passionate physical contact inside a car.
My condolences. Well then, let's go through what exactly you are to do from now onward again. If, of course, you're still up for it, ma'am.
Yes, I do indeed. I will first set up this voice recorder inside his car. Then, after he comes home tomorrow, I will retrieve the voice recorder, as well as the GPS information. My husband's car has a device on it that enables people to track where he is, where he's been, and where he's bound to go. Under instructions from the detective, I placed the voice recorder inside the backseat pocket. I was able to get inside his locked car because we both have our car's spare keys at home. I was going to use that spare key to get inside his car and bug the interior.
The voice recorder will only be useful if it's placed inside the vehicle, so the only legal way to do that is to directly ask his only confirmed family, which is you, ma'am. And if you bug the car too soon, there's a possibility we won't obtain the desired recordings within its functioning time, so timing is very key.
I suppose the easiest timing is to bug it mere minutes before that floozy gets in the car?
Indeed. Our experience tells us that secret love affairs involving married women usually happen between the afternoon, perhaps 2 p.m., and the evening, perhaps 5 p.m. Please be sure to bug the inside of the car between these two times, and make sure that your husband never suspects anything, nor must you allow him to see you.
Understood, sir. We made our way to the parking lot, where my husband always parked his car. I already knew which business hotel he frequented, and his car was parked in its underground parking lot.
I will scour the main lobby first. You stay hidden, ma'am, until I tell you the coast is clear.
I separated with the detective and made for the passage that brought me down to the basement. I was lingering near the elevator hall that connected directly to the main lobby and thinking about where I should hide myself. At that moment, my phone rang.
Hurry, ma'am, the woman is headed that way right now. Bug the car immediately and find a good place to hide.
I glanced at the elevator's display and found that there was an elevator coming down this way. I let my instincts take over and instantly bolted towards my husband's car. After opening it, I switched the voice recorder on and let gravity plunge it into the dark coziness of the backseat pocket. I risked a glance at the elevator, and right then, the doors were starting to open, and I could see a woman starting to walk out. The blinking headlights! Everything would be over if she saw them. I slowly backed away from my husband's car in a cold sweat. I fought against my instincts, who'd been doing a great job until then, but now were telling me to rush to the exit. I resisted the urge and backed away naturally. The woman was looking at her phone and didn't seem to see me backing away from the car. I forcefully calmed my jittering legs down and slowly started to walk. I made my way back to the elevator and risked another glance behind me. The woman was now leaning against my husband's car, talking on her phone. Perhaps my husband himself was arriving there soon. I had completed my mission, and I quickly abandoned the parking lot behind me. I greeted my husband with a natural look on my face when he came back home the next day.
I'm home, honey.
Welcome back, honey. Want me to help you with putting your things away?
I'm all right, honey. I'll do it myself. Sorry to always leave you behind every weekend.
As usual, my husband was his kind, charming self, acting as though he wasn't guilty of anything at all. Perhaps he never dreamed I now knew everything there was to know about what he's doing. He was exhausted after a long drive back home, and since he still had work the next morning, he turned in early. An hour after he stayed in his bedroom, I retrieved the voice recorder and the GPS information from his car. The fact I was going to listen to what they were saying was so scary to me. What if my spirit broke part way? Would I ever be happy again? I put in my earphones and pushed the play button on the voice recorder. The contents of the recording were truly shocking, but by the end of it, all the questions had been answered and everything was crystal clear. As soon as they were both in the car, they started to talk passionately about their love for each other.
I can finally be at your side again. I'm going back to headquarters soon. And then I'm going on the road to get promotions, better salaries, and more respect within the company. A little more patience and we'll be rewarded in the end.
I know that, darling, but I just can't stand it anymore. I can't stand that you're married to another bitch.
I'm doing all this for you, my darling. You have to trust me. I understand it's hard. It's hard for me too. I'm only going to have children with that woman and then I'll quickly divorce her. I'll make up some story of her cheating on me and then I'll kick her out of the house.
And I'm gonna do everything I can to divorce that son of a bitch husband of mine. He's so harassing. It's actually heartbreaking. He goes on, making me feel bad for not being able to have children. Every day is so hard right now.
And I'm going to save you, my darling. We're going to have a beautiful life together, the two of us, and our beautiful child.
I'm so happy. I love you so much. This conversation answered the question of why my husband married me in the first place. His plan was to meet someone soon after transferring to my branch, marry them a few months later, destroy all suspicion of having an affair with this woman, and then make his way back onto the road of glory. That unfortunate woman turned out to be yours truly. The woman wasn't fertile, but wanted my husband's children. He was going to have a child with me, fabricate some stupid story of me having an affair with another guy, divorce me, take custody of the child, and get back to the woman with her rightful child. And she was going to divorce her husband because of psychological harassment. And soon thereafter, they would marry each other, start a family, and live happily ever after. Not on my goddamn watch. I decided right then and there that I would have my revenge on the two traitors. After that night, I lived my life as I always have with my husband, appearing naive and unaware of what was going on. Per my own request, we decided that the wedding would be of a restaurant style, with a membership to attend. I didn't want to provide any financial burdens to my friends and family in the form of wedding presents. Our marriage was all completely fake. It wasn't worthy of celebrating, nor was it worthy of being gifted with a bunch of wedding gifts.
It's going to be a pretty cheap wedding, you know? Are you sure you're okay with this?
Yeah, a real one is only going to give us a lot of pressure, I think, and that's the last thing we want right now, right? I've always dreamed of having this kind of friendly, casual wedding. It just seems so nice to me.
I agree. We don't want any stress or pressure. Let's go with your idea.
I also knew the truth behind what I saw as nothing but his naturally considerate demeanor. The only reason was to do whatever means necessary to get me pregnant as quickly as possible. I've been swallowing birth control pills behind his back so that it would lower the chances of that happening. Until the wedding, I spoke and acted like I had no clue what he was doing when he left for the big city on weekends. On the day of the wedding, completely cocooned inside a majestic white dress that looked absolutely gorgeous, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Be brave. You got this. Today's the day everything will go well." We were greeted by an eruption of applause when my husband and I strode into the banquet room. The guests were almost exclusively my husband's friends and co-workers. My guests were my own parents and a few colleagues and bosses from my own workplace. I wonder what kind of things they were expecting, sitting there, beholding this fake wedding full of lies and disloyalty. The wedding went splendidly. Everything went smoothly, and it was a glorious night, I must admit. Then came the final item of business, my husband's speech. Commence operation. The restaurant staff did what I asked them to do and started handing out these envelopes to all the tables. Inside every single one was the same photograph that the detective had given me. The one where you can clearly see he was with another woman doing unspeakable things to her in his own car. By the way, yes, the woman was invited, and the photograph was also handed out to her table. She took one look at the photograph, showed a look of horror in her face, and looked in my direction. I was finally able to lock eyes with her. Once she realized I was looking directly at her while she was looking at me, she covered her face with both hands and placed her forehead onto the table. Everyone in the banquet room started murmuring and whispering, but my husband mistook this as positive reaction towards his enlightening speech. He later went on and said this.
Recently, there have been many cases of individuals being unfaithful to the ones they love by having affairs. But, let it be known, I'm the kind of guy who would never cheat on the one he loves.
I stood up from my chair, approached my husband under the spotlight, and as I threw multiple copies of the photograph in his face, I shouted, "Well, that's great, but could you explain this to me?" Noticing the contents of the pieces of paper that were flying everywhere, my husband seemed to understand what was happening, hollered,
"No, stop this!"
and fell to his knees. The cat was now out of the bag, and the wedding was adjourned. The woman had somehow left the room undetected. Before my husband left, he signed the divorce document that I'd brought with me, and he was shaking. His parents rushed to me, kneeled before me, and kindly begged for my forgiveness. I had already told my own parents about the situation and assured them we felt no resentment towards them whatsoever. My husband's boss, from headquarters, said,
"As per the case of misconduct submitted to our branch, I offer you my deepest, sincerest apologies."
I didn't expect an apology from him, honestly. Perhaps my husband came to terms with his crimes, because, as a parting shot, he said,
"I know what I did was wrong, but I don't regret doing what I believe I had to do in the name of love."
"I don't want to see your pathetic face ever again, so be sure to tell your lawyer what you want to say to me. Goodbye, and I hope you rot in hell." My husband couldn't remain at his job, what with the pressure and such, so he quit his job soon after. The woman also quit her job. It seems like her husband really is a psychologically abusive one, and not only is he refusing to accept a divorce, but he also upped the ante, so to speak. The woman's life has become a lot more insufferable. Does my ex really not regret not doing what he did in the name of love with this situation? Love that takes the form of pain for other people, whose objective is to make one's life more convenient, is not love at all, in my view. I also quit my job. I've given a lot of trouble to my own workplace because of my own selfish desire for revenge. I believe it was the right thing to do, thanks to the compensation I got from my ex-husband as well as his lover. I've managed to move to a new place in the countryside. For work, I was hired by an agricultural direct sales depot, thanks to my skills as a former IT office employee. I've helped manage the accounts of this establishment and made some changes to improve sales. So far, things are going great. I vow to forget about the painful past and look to the future with hope. And I promise I will live happily ever after.